So this is a very interesting concept called ladder of inference. A person called Chris Argyris, who's a very well-known name in learning. So he's credited with this particular concept. So how do we get our mental models? What are mental models, by the way?
Beliefs, thoughts, sort of that.
Beliefs, yes. So some of you already know this. So they are worldviews. No, we form opinions, we form judgments, we form an understanding of how the world is, how others are, and how does this get formed? So you have some data that you observe. At the bottom of the ladder, you can see you have data that you can observe, and you have experiences that you store in your memory. And sometimes what happens, you selectively cull out this data, selectively use a particular memory, and you add your own meaning to it. So how does this meaning happen? It's based on your upbringing, it's based on your own learning, but you interpret and you add meaning to the data that you observe from the world. And this form gets formed into an assumption. So, and every time this assumption is reinforced, you form a strong belief. You conclude and form strong beliefs about a group of people and things like that. And these beliefs in turn affects how you act, right? So this is how you form or you behave, you start behaving. Now, where can a problem arise? Where is the bias seeping in? Can you tell me?
I think when we influence too much with personal bias or personal prejudice, maybe then trouble comes.
Okay. So let's do a quick activity. Again, some of you may know this, others please do. Can you read this?
Yes.
Okay, so please write down, there are 5 characters: Maya, Edumalai, Rocky, Sushil, and Rahul. Please write down these 5 names. Read this short story. Which character do you approve the most? Which character do you disapprove the most?
So is the river an actual river, or is it metaphorical?
No, it's an act. Here you could treat it as actual river. The inference is metaphorical. But for now, just treat this as a usual story. Okay, don't think too much. Come on. So, which character do you disapprove the most? Based on the given info. You don't have any other info. Based on just this.
I think I would disapprove the most.
I will disapprove the Rocky because he's in a seeking mindset.
Sajid, hi.
Yeah. So this Rocky guy is in a seeking mindset, and that too at the extreme end. So
Okay.
I disapprove him.
Okay, Sajid, can we do this ladder of inference for you?
Oh, okay.
Now, what are your beliefs? All people who have a seeking mindset are what?
Put personal gratification above common good.
That in itself is not negative, I would say. No, you're just describing. So people with a seeking mindset put personal gains or whatever in front of others. So that by itself is more descriptive. It's not actually evaluative or judgmental yet.
Ma'am, but can I add something over here?
Yes.
We don't really know whether Rocky has a seeking mindset or not. It might just be that the river might not be, say, passable. It's not something that you can journey on that river in the next 1 week or something. We don't know what the assumptions are exactly or what exactly happened in that 1 week. We are assuming the worst because Edumalai was very shocked about it, or Edumalai was like, okay, I'm not at all going to marry you or whatever. But we don't know. We might, if we look at Erumalai and if we say that Erumalai is an overreactor or an overthinker or has like very strict, it's like it's very firm and is so if we put him as the most disapproving one, we'll realize that maybe like there was nothing wrong that transpired in that 1 week. It was just, it's maybe just the norms dictating, asking Erumalai or dictating Erumalai's decision to not go ahead with the wedding. But it might actually, nothing might have happened. It might just be from a safety point of view, or if maybe the boat was in a repair. It might be anything, right?
So,
or maybe there was not healthy communication between Maya and Erumalai, that she could not deliver the trust properly, and maybe that could have caused problems.
So there are so many different ways that we can understand this particular stimulus, this particular story, and why are so many of us understanding it in a different way?
Scenario or any
The
of
beliefs,
situation.
our own core beliefs, I guess, dictate our opinions.
Definitely. So, and as I said, it happens over time. No, it doesn't happen suddenly. It happens gradually over time. We carry on experiences. We have selective memories. And it keeps adding on. And finally, we have belief systems which are very strong, and that defines the way we behave. So, Gyan number 1, how we approach conflict defines the way how we see conflict, how we take conflict, how we perceive it or understand conflict, defines how we approach it. So if we see, okay, in every team, there has to be just everybody sinking in with their ideas. There shouldn't be too, so we believe that decisions have to be taken fast. Then we wouldn't encourage discussions. So how we see or view a situation obviously defines how we act on it. So that therefore, if we see conflict as an essential part, as an integral part, and conflict and diversity is the norm, they are the norm, then we would approach it not by smoothing it under the carpet when we need to address it. Like, sorry, Amartya, in your case, maybe you needed to have addressed it. Maybe you would have if it was a recurring interaction, but you didn't want to work with that person again.
Yes.
Okay. So how you view the conflict defines how you approach it, how you act upon it.
Yes, ma'am.
If I view discussions and debates in the classroom as a waste of time, because I need to cover my portions, I need to finish my portions, and I have to have all answers because I'm the teacher. And if you ask me any question that I don't know the answer, it cuts a sorry figure, I lose face. If I have all of these assumptions and belief system, what will I do? I will have a monologue.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so the ladder of inference is a very, very useful tool. And the bias can happen. Where can the bias happen? Where can the bias happen? In which stage?
Selecting data because our minds are finite.
Yes. But can it happen before that as well?
I think, selecting data, we select from a way. Maybe how we look.
At the first stage, Mark, can the bias happen at the observable data and experience stage itself?
Yeah, in that also happen. We have limited bandwidth only. So in that stage also it can happen.
How does the bias happen at that stage?
We often see things only what we want to see. We interpret things the way we want to interpret them, and that is a function of the way we are modeled to see things.
Hey Aditya, you can see the screen?
Yes.
Super. Sorry, I interrupted you. Continue, Aditya.
No, I made my point.
Okay. So we see what we want to see. So therefore, the first perceptual filters are the senses. And if the lens is if the lens itself is discolored, then we will see things as we want to see. So therefore, perceptual filtering or purification is constant purification is very much needed. How do you purify your perceptual filters? How do you purify so that perceptual acuity is sharp?
Mindfulness, non-judgmentality.
Definitely. We've spoken a lot about non-judgmentality, but how is it possible in real life? How? Give me some clear-cut ways to be non-judgmental.
It actually starts with becoming aware of what we are thinking and what we are feeling. Are we a victim of our own, tradition, thoughts, or something like that? It's becoming more and more aware of our inner being. And after that comes how we want to work it out.
Correct. So first is, as Sajid and Karan mentioned, awareness, mindfulness, but that is not enough actually. The willingness to press the pause button. Okay, I'm seeing a tweet and immediately it hits my personal belief system. So immediately I assume the worst of the tweet and then I start using derogatory words. Now I can press the pause button in the remote. The first instance where I assume that this tweet is from a very negative intention. So the second gyan for today, can we be mindful and stop assuming negative intention? First is what?
First is how we see the conflict.
Yes, how we
It actually depends on what positions those two people are operating from.
So we attach meanings, cultural meanings to interpret the data. Then we make assumptions based on generalizations, like what Sunita mentioned about generalizations, about we generalize or we delete certain things. And we believe that's the truth. I draw conclusions out of it, and that defines actions. So at any stage, bias is possible, which we need to be aware. Awareness itself is not enough.
Where does intention come in here?
Sir?
Where does intention come here? When two people interact,
yes.
Let us say whether it is conflict or not, that there would be an intention for each individual in terms of interaction.
Correct, right.
Where does that come over here in this mental model?
I think meanings and assumption. Okay. Meaning and assumption. Because those are very intrinsic. It's very difficult for us to understand the other person's intention because we are just imagining that intention. So we are assuming that the other person is saying something that's belittling me. The other person is saying something to uplift me. So I think we at the meaning stage and at the assumption stage maybe it may come.
Okay.
Personally, I've really benefited by this not assuming negative intention, reframing and understanding that. So therefore, the third gyan, according to me, is let's stop imagining. I think we are very creative people. We may imagine a lot. Okay, let's go on to the style. Which of the five could is more effective? It's competing, and it is an assertive form, and it has its uses definitely, where you believe in an idea so strongly that you're very convinced and you want to put forth that point of view. But
So
it
it
is
also
win.
has to do with one has to win, the other has to lose. Am I right?
Yes, yes. So the other assertive means is collaborating, where both parties fully gain out of it.
Win-win.
Win-win, definitely.
Okay.
Win-win. And compromising is, again, it is in between assertiveness and cooperativeness, where half is what is gained by both the parties. So there is no full gain by both the parties, but I compromise.
I compromise is lose-win, is it not?
Not essentially. Both parties lose something and they don't fully gain. But
Oh, that's not accommodating? Okay.
No. Accommodating, as you said, is lose-win.
I see. Okay.
And avoiding is, as you know, it's both lose-lose. So which of the 5 styles do you think is most effective?
I think collaborating is more effective because it's a win-win for both the parties.
Okay. Okay. Any more responses?
Even I think it's collaborative is more effective.
What happens when you have a crisis situation, when you don't have the time to brainstorm and listen to every person's opinion? Emergency,
in
you
that
need
case, accommodating will be, I think, will be more
either
effective.
competing or accommodating will work in those situations. Collaborating may not work there. So the answer to the question, which style is most effective? None of the styles are effective in all scenarios. Every style is effective in a particular situation. So avoidance is the best possible style. When is avoidance the most effective style?
When the returns of the conflict is less in value than the amount of time and energy we put in conflict management.
Very true. Victory. Yes, you know that whatever happens, there is no point in trying to mend ways between two groups of people or two people. Then it's better to avoid. But of course, if you're in an interdependent nature of work, again it becomes very difficult. So you need to either restructure the team so that the reporting relationships are different. You need to do some form to counter this. Avoidance is also the most effective when you are in danger. I mean, definitely avoidance is the most effective means. And when you hit a wall, avoidance is definitely, it makes more sense. But every style has its plus and minus, as you all already have figured it out. But avoidance by itself as the most favored style may not be a healthy one. So constantly you want to avoid. You want to smoothen it under the carpet. You don't want to address it. You don't want to confront it because it creates unpleasantness. Then it says something about me. It's not a most favored. Competing, always my way, highway, parochialism. That's not a very favored style. People will run away from me if I keep wanting only what I believe in. Compromising is also not so favored always because there's no fulfillment. No, each party doesn't feel fulfilled because both of them have lost something. When there is time.
When is compromising effective?
Again, when there is a quick decision that needs to be taken, you just compromise, and you know when there is a next time to it. So you say, hey, come on, I want to go to the movie. I mean, not now. I want to go to the movie. You want to go for this? Okay, this time I will let go. It's okay. When things are not so important. Yes, sir.
No, also when you tried win-win and it is not working, that's when you feel, okay, let's see if we can compromise.
Yes.
You take that step towards compromising so that both are benefited. It is not win-win, but it is not lose-lose.
Correct. Right.
Okay.
So, what is your style? Earlier, remember, so we have dealt enough with this. You all know earlier what style I was following, but that's not effective at all in all times. So therefore, moving from avoiding to competing, is it a much more feasible solution, or moving from avoiding to something else is much more feasible?
Avoiding to collaborating might be a better alternative.
Yes, correct. Avoiding to collaborating is much more feasible, and it will not jerk the other person. It will not shock the other person. Avoiding to the exact opposite, competing, may really shock the other person. So you don't do that immediately. Or accommodating to competing, again, will shock the other person. So collaborating, which, so I usually when I do this in class, I do an activity where there are four animals, the bulldog, which is for a competing style. Collaborating is more the honeybee and the ants, which have more of teamwork kind of a style. Avoiding is a rabbit. And compromising could be chameleon, maybe, where the person is very adaptable. So which style do you favor? It's a preference, but that preference can be healthy in some situations, may not be healthy. Amartya, would you want to move from a rabbit position of an avoidance in that example that you said to maybe a more effective means?
Yeah. Actually, in our team, we were like more competing. We were on the more competing side, except for that one person. So our goals are not inclined with his goals. So he was trying to avoid, but instead of avoiding, I would say he was trying to compromise or something. Hello, can you hear me, ma'am?
Collaborate. Communicate clearly expectations. As in the panel discussion, they clearly mentioned about expectation management, right? In professional context, it's all about expectation management.
Okay.
So instead of avoiding and smoothing that issue, and you don't get in this, the other person also hasn't learned the lesson, which is important for him as a mentor or as a senior. You four do have the responsibility to guide that junior, and that person wouldn't have learned anything. You need to do your work.
Yeah, we actually have less time. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like a pressure situation. So
correct. But after that, you could communicate. Maybe even now, this one of the outcome of this session is to restore any relationship that we want to restore. So Amartya, take this opportunity, I would say.
Yes, ma'am.
To really mentor that student.
Yeah, sure.
So the others, please, if you have written down one conflicting situation that you want to work on, see what style would be most effective. And one of the outcomes from this session is to repair or restore a relationship that has gone.
Just sharing an experience. See,
yes, sir.
Time is a continuum, and the relationship is also, in a way, continuum. So no one single type suits a relationship all the time. Sometimes accommodating is the best form given the situation. So one has to be creative enough in being able to find the best form of style while interacting. I was just watching a serial.
Yes.
It's about a husband and wife. So at a particular point, I found that one of the characters, whether it is husband or wife, was giving in, though he or she was incorrect, just to move on. right? At that time, one adopts a style which is accommodating. My sister was going to come along with me for a marriage. So she was going to come with me for a marriage, and suddenly she decided not to come. So I was surprised why she changed her mind. But she was going through a thought process where she was imagining that people there would brand her as somebody who is uninvited in the marriage function because of she being a widow. These things happen to people. So the best style that she figured out was to avoid going early to the marriage.
So how do we figure out which style is most effective in that particular context?
Yeah, people adopt different styles. One could probably also use an assertive style, saying, I am what I am. And then don't mind the others talking about you. That is one style. The other is being able to understand that people are people and they have this social understanding of a person.
Yes.
So there are many styles people follow when it comes to the same situation. People can comment about what style she could have used. It was her own niece's marriage where she decided to come later.
So again, selecting a style depends on what values you have. If you have, I think in this particular case, harmony, maintaining harmony was an important value for that person than showing that I am me, this is who I am, and therefore causing some disharmony within quotes.
Exactly. Very good. Yeah, that's precisely what must have run into our mind.
Yeah.
Just to make sure harmony is there, that conflict doesn't blow up.
Yes.
In a function like this.
Whereas another person who thinks, hey, this is me, I'm my most authentic self. I mean, why should I? This is me. People should accept me as I am. If that is the most important value, then their behavior will be different.
It is also about acceptance. Whether I accept people ignoring me, people avoiding me in the marriage. Let's say there are certain things where she would have otherwise been involved if she were not a widow.
Right.
So it's also a mindset in terms of whether that acceptance is going to affect her or not.